guys, this is Outlaw Curtis here from HoldSquare.com. I have got the honor and the privilege today of sitting down with the founder, what do we call you these days? The president, founder, co-owner, partner, something of Gearbox Studios, and Randy Pitchford, who's taken time to sit down with us for a few minutes. And we've had Jeff Skull here, who's given us a tour, which has been great, seen a lot of awesome things. And just going to sit down for a second with Randy and ask him a couple questions. Thanks a lot for having us here, Randy. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks for the gift.
You like the shirt? That's our 5-year anniversary shirt. So we owe our beginnings to Gearbox Software.
This is pretty sweet. No, I'm really grateful. Like it's, we try to do a lot to create entertainment for people, and every once in a while some folks like give us rewards for that, and it's really awesome when that happens. So this is special.
Yeah, we walked down the hallway, and I'll be posting some pictures of this later. But we walked down the hallway.
Yeah, you
and
saw some of the stuff.
Some fan guitars. That
Yeah. Oh, that guy was
Gearbox
awesome.
guitars.
Yeah, that guy was rad, dude. He custom made those. He just carved them up and painted them,
and so you guys just get boxes and you open them up and say, hey.
Every once in a while, this weird stuff happens. Like this one guy. Did you see the meat puppet in the break room?
Oh yeah. We saw that. Right.
Somebody made a puppet out of meat. Because of the line meat puppet.
Right, because the line meat puppet, right, of course. So, no, that's awesome. It's got to be gratifying.
People are awesome.
Yeah, when people get that much enjoyment out of something and have that much fun with it, they take that much time. It's got to make you guys feel like you're doing something right, I guess.
Sometimes, yeah. It is gratifying. It is. I mean, because that's why we fight. We exist to entertain people.
Right.
Sometimes when we get evidence that we're doing it right, then it kind of keeps this going. So.
Yeah, that's great. And of course, we've got 1 week left, March 24th, the Handsome Collection coming out. So I know everyone's got to be getting excited about that. I know a lot of Reapers are getting really excited about that. Talk a little bit, Randy. We were talking earlier off camera just about what we can expect from the pre-sequel. I myself haven't played the pre-sequel yet, so I'm coming in this kind of virgin territory for me. But I know a lot of Reapers played it on the PS3 and now are going to be playing it again on the PS4. What can kind of both of those different gaming groups expect from that collection, either if you've played it before or even if you haven't played it before?
Right. Well, what happened, after we were pretty much done with the pre-sequel, we had announced the game, and when we first started working on it, and remember we worked on that with 2K Australia.
Sure.
They did most of the work.
Mm-hmm.
A bunch of our guys eventually jumped in, and of course we were there to kind of work out the high level. But it was really a 2K Australia project, and I love it because it was really the first Borderlands game I got to play like a customer.
Right.
Like every other Borderlands game, like I'm neck deep in it.
Right.
But this one I kind of got to, oh crap, look what they did here. It's weird, but it makes it my favorite Borderlands game because it was the first one to surprise me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
So, there's some really clever stuff, and they thought of stuff I never would have done. But when we announced it, there was a whole bunch of people that said, hey, what about next gen? I'm like, well, we're using the Borderlands 2 engine. 2K Australia is working on it. There's only so much budget. There's not enough resources to port the engine, and so we didn't think we were gonna even have a next gen version. But clearly, that response suggested there was demand for it, and our publishing partner 2K thought maybe it's worth it, and so they asked us how could this happen if we wanted it to happen, and we were too busy, 2K Australia was too busy, and everybody that we had immediate access to was too busy. But the guys up in Chicago, they're called Iron Galaxy. They did the Vita version. They ported the game Borderlands 2 to the PlayStation Vita. They'd finished that work. And they'd worked on some of they'd helped some other people on some PS4 and some Xbox One games, and they had some free cycles. So it's like, hey, can you guys help if this effort wanted to happen? And they're like, yeah, we'd help. But even they didn't have enough help, or they didn't have enough dudes. So there's this other group in Austin, Armature. Jack Matthews runs that group. I've known Jack for 20 years now. And he had some free time, and there's some smart dudes there, and so between those two studios kind of joining forces and working with our guys, there suddenly became enough effort to start that, and so they got going, and the mission was, hey, let's see how much we can push these platforms, right? Because both the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One are x86 architecture, right? Mm-hmm. So they're all kind of closer than consoles have ever been to what a PC can do. Mm-hmm. So let's take the PC content, let's take the highest fidelity materials from our PC versions of the game, let's see, can you guys update the engine, make things run faster, get more stuff on the screen? Can we use the highest fidelity content? Can we go 4-player split screen?
Right.
Like, we started asking these questions. Obviously some people are going to play the old games, they're going to want to bring their saves forward. Can we do that? Right? So we ask all these questions, and these guys really stepped up and did it. So if you haven't played the pre-sequel yet, and you're a console gamer and you're playing on the PlayStation, if you played Borderlands on the PlayStation 3, when you play Borderlands 2 and Borderlands pre-sequel on the PlayStation 4, you're probably going to see the widest gap of anybody, right? Because the PC version, there's no PC version of the Handsome Collection because they already have everything.
Right.
The Xbox One version is a nice jump, but the PlayStation 4 version is probably the biggest leap over the PlayStation 3. Yeah, because in the last round, the PlayStation 3, by the way, I love all my platforms, and I have all the consoles, and I love the exclusives per console. I'm like just a super hardcore nerd gamer, so I don't really I'm platform agnostic.
Right.
If a game has a platform I want, I'm on there.
Right.
It doesn't matter what the platform is. But I know some people aren't as fortunate as me. They don't make games for a living, so they don't get to have all the gear. Some people, you have to make choices. Some people can't afford both consoles. But if you were a PlayStation 3 gamer, the PlayStation 3 was in some ways not quite as powerful as an Xbox 360. There are certain things it could do better, but just for pure throughput, with the base game, especially multi-platform games, it generally was a little behind the Xbox 360. But the PlayStation 4 now is fast. I mean, I don't know if you guys know this, but when Sony came around and told us about their new platform, the PlayStation 4 platform originally was only going to have 4 gigs of RAM in it. And it was actually me that talked them into making sure it had 8 gigs because I love my PlayStation, so I wanted it to be a super powerful system, and they have the fast RAM in there, that DDR5, which is really good. And we looked at the specs and we looked at the architecture, and we kind of knew this thing's going to need more memory if we're going to be able to do what we want to do with it.
Wow.
And also looking ahead, right? Because there's a long-range plan for these platforms. So someday we're going to be trying to push 4K content on these things. So we're going to need memory for that. So we got it. So now you have this massive leap. So the PlayStation 4 version will look the best. It'll have the highest performance, best frame rates, especially in 4-player split screen because you're doing a lot of work there. So it's really cool. So if you haven't played the pre-sequel yet, and you are a console gamer, that's a great way. It's a great way to do it.
Yeah.
If you have played it, it's going to be faster. There's honestly the PlayStation 3 version. There's probably some areas where we had to scale back a little bit on the PlayStation 3, whereas we're scaling up on the PlayStation 4. So if you've memorized every square inch, hey, there's way more dudes in this area now, or holy crap, there's a lot more monsters in this area, or bad guys, and you're gonna find examples of that as you play. But I'm really proud of it because you take a risk when you trust other people with your stuff, and those guys really did a good job. I haven't played through both games and all of the DLC front to back yet on the Xbox One or the PlayStation 4 with the Handsome Collection. I've sampled some areas. We've got awesome QA teams, but I haven't played every bit of content yet. I'm actually kind of waiting myself. I want to get my retail version because I'm probably going to just consume everything completely once, and I want to get all my achievements and trophies, and I'm afraid that if I played it too much in development that I wouldn't be as motivated, and then it would be more like work. So I'm really looking forward to the launch. Actually, I don't have my retail copy yet. We should be getting. Do you know when we're getting our copies?
Probably Tuesday.
Yeah.
Tuesday,
It's funny. We get them, because we have the master, of course, and that gets sent off to the first parties, and then it's released to manufacturing, and then it the stamping of the discs and that happens in some magical process somewhere else. We don't know, and then eventually we get shipped the same boxes that everybody else does. So when all the local retailers get their deliveries, we get our deliveries at the same time.
Wow.
And it's like Christmas for us. But what's funny is we'll get our boxes in, but you know what I do? I always go to the store and buy my own copy. I love doing that. Every game we've ever made, I still do it, and I kind of hang out a little bit. Like I usually go to both Best Buy and Walmart, and then and you know, a lot of the games I'll do the midnight launches for GameStop, which are a lot of fun.
Right.
There's like crazy fans there. But when I go to a Best Buy, I'll just sort of linger. You know,
Right.
just sort of hang out and see what other people are buying, and
Yeah.
you know, I'll actually be in the store for like an hour and a half on launch day, and just kind of do a little mental loop of seeing how many people get the game and kind of what they look like, how the, you know, are they excited to do it, are they just kind of grabbing it and going,
Right,
or
right.
are they, how old are they, what gender are they, you know, that kind of stuff.
Right.
And it's totally anecdotal, like the sample size is like,
Yeah, I'm very small.
but there's something about that. But I love that experience of like buying the game and taking it home. And that's, the one I bought is the one I usually open and put in my retail PlayStation or Xbox, and I'll usually play that. It's fun. It's fun.
It's hard to imagine you as like a GameStop manager or something, seeing Randy Pitchford coming into my store buying a copy of
I'll tell you what,
Borderlands. It's gonna be weird.
about 2/3 of the time now they recognize me.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's more than that. 2/3 of the time they'll like mention it, you know.
Right.
1/3 of the time they either are acting like they don't know me or they don't know me.
Right.
So it's fine. Like I get the real customer experience. But I've had some weird experiences like going into game stores. I walked into one, I think it was in San Francisco once. I was just sort of, it was the one in downtown, like I think it was on Market Street or something, and it's a pretty big GameStop, and it's got a downstairs, and I like their window displays. I just wanted to see how they were doing things and their merchandising and stuff, and I walked in there and I looked around, and it was empty. It was like in the middle of the day. There was only a couple other people in there, and they, you know, they looked at me, and I thought, oh shit, they made me, and then like, they just kind of did their thing, the people working there. So I thought, oh cool, maybe they don't know who I am. So I just started checking the store out, and I was downstairs. I was probably in there for like 15 minutes. And one of the people that worked in the store, some young woman, she approached me and she had a copy of Borderlands 2 in her hands.
Aww.
And she said, hey, I thought you might be interested in this game that we carry. I'm like, all right. You know what's going on.
Funny.
But then I've had the other thing too. I went to one in LA where this dude freaked the hell out. It was I think it was right before Borderlands 1 came out actually, and he had a Guitar Hero setup going, and they were playing Guitar Hero, and the store was packed. And that guy freaked the heck out. He was like an insane Brothers in Arms fan. And he made me sign a bunch of stuff. And I was taking pictures with everybody, and it was cool. It was a lot of fun, you know. And it makes me grateful that you know, that the world's the way it is. You know, that we can actually reach people.
Right.
It was a lot of fun. But I've had all kinds of experiences with folks.
You know, you talked about earlier. You mentioned that like letting other people kind of get their hands on your baby and working on your product. What's that like the very first time when you've kind of brought something up and created something out of your mind and out of all your minds, and then hand that over to somebody else and let them put their stamp on it and bring their vision to bear? And then you said you played it for the first time and it's like a new game to you because you weren't involved in it. What's that like turning the keys over to somebody else?
I think we're pretty good at it, actually. You know, I was talking to Matt Armstrong about this. He's the franchise director for Borderlands, and he was pretty much the first guy on Borderlands. You know, and Matt and I remember when we were first talking about what this could be, before we even imagined the name Borderlands, the universe, I mean, he created most of the foundation of the universe and a significant part of the details, long before that even existed, when we're just thinking, hey, you know, we could probably do a looter RPG game with an FPS, and that'd probably be okay. You know, we were back at that stage, we were talking about it, and, you know, even at early stages, you start to wonder, you know, you hope, like, you know, maybe this could be big enough where it becomes a thing, and then other people would do stuff, and it actually kind of excites us. And I think we're pretty good at it, and I think we're good at trusting other people to play around in things we've created, because our own process is such where there's so many people involved at Gearbox, and there isn't like a sole dictator that like creates a plan and a script and designs every element and everybody else just builds it. No, Borderlands and all of the games we build at Gearbox are truly a team effort, where every single person on the project is lending their own creativity and affecting what it becomes, changing what it becomes through their own creativity. And so, you know, to extend that to people outside is just kind of, that's just the way we work.
Right.
Now, the reason why I think we're good at it is because, you know, we've worked with other people's stuff before, and we know what it's like. You know, we made all of the expansions and all the console versions of the original Half-Life. And we did the PC version of Halo and added a whole bunch of content and added internet multiplayer for the first time for the Halo franchise, you know. And we've worked in you know, this wall here has a lot of franchises that aren't ours of other people's IP that we've worked in. And we know what it's like when we're trusted and we can just, you know, do what we know is right for the game and the property. And we also know what it's like when there's all these constraints and just challenges and pressures put on, and how that can affect the quality of the outcome.
Right.
And our best games are always the ones where we have the most freedom, and the games that tend not to work out as well, it tends to be the ones where there's the most kind of hurdles in our way. And so we want to be really good with partners, with people that work with Gearbox on our brands. We want to say, look, man, if we're signing up with you, that's because you have talent and we're trusting you.
Right.
And if we're trusting you, then we're freaking trusting you. So yeah, if there's something you're not clear on about, like, this aspect of the universe or this character, obviously that dialogue's there, and we're going to get in sync. But if you want to do something, do it. So, like I mentioned, I was talking recently with Matt Armstrong about this, and James Lopez, who's a producer, because, you know, we're collaborating with the Telltale guys,
right.
And they're affecting we kind of decided, you know what, let's let their stories be canonical. Like Telltale, like we'll work with them on the outlines and stuff, but they're gonna bring ideas to the table. They're gonna create characters, and they're gonna change the characters that we've created, and they're gonna change the universe that we've created. And let's allow that to be. Let's make sure it's canonical. Let's give it that dignity, because we want to enjoy it as customers and know it's important and relevant. We like their games are awesome. We want to play their games just as much as everybody else. You know, we want it to be meaningful. So, and there was this thing recently, and it's funny, and Matt said, hey, you know, because they were up there a couple weeks ago, Matt and a couple of the other guys, Anthony, and talking with the Telltale guys about some things for one of the future episodes. And this, I don't want to spoil it, but this idea came across the table.
Right.
That's pretty profound. Like it affects the universe in a pretty, you know, non-trivial way. Like some stuff goes down, and you know, so Matt's like, hey, you know, this came up. What do you think? And I'm like, dude, if they want to do it and it's good for the story, go for it.
Go for it.
You know. And we're talking about, like, you know, like if we were, you know, like you think about Star Wars, like, you know, when you're talking about changing the relationships of main characters, or, you know, something as big as, you know, when Alderaan gets blown up, or the Death Star itself gets blown up. Like, these are massive things in the events of that universe. I'm pretty proud of the fact that instead of being precious and tight, needing to control all of that for ourselves, like, hey, this is good for the story, it's good for that game. Let's let it ride. So we'll see what happens.
Well, that's great. You know, one of the things sitting in here, and you alluded to it a minute ago, just kind of wrapping up, but I'm looking around the room, and I'll upload some pictures of this, but you've got a ton of systems all around here.
Oh yeah,
looking back, My friend Brett Weiss, who's an author, just came out with a book, and it's the 100 greatest video games from 1977 to 87. So I'm reading this book right now, and it's taking me back to, because those are a lot of formative years for a lot of guys kind of in our age ranges, you know, the 77 to 87, and thinking back to what my first game was, what that first experience was, where I manipulated characters on a screen. And I was just curious to ask you, what was your earliest kind of childhood memory? What's the first game that you played at home, when you got to play a video game on your home screen, and that kind of got you hooked on video games in general?
The first video game I played, I think, was a handheld game, and I can't remember the name of it, but the premise was it was a racing game, and it was, I mean, we're talking like 1974, 75. And so it's some kind of racing game, and it's this handheld thing, and here was the game. There are these LEDs, and I think it went like green, 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 or green, 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 red, green, 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 red, green, 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 red.
Right.
There was a switch. It was you switch it up or down, and then there was like a digital timer, like an old school LED watch, you know, like old school digital timer. And so you'd start the game by flipping it, and the LEDs would go green, 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 red. And the game was, when it got to red, it would stop there until you switched gears.
Okay.
But if you switched gears before it got there, then the engine would break and you would lose.
Gosh.
So you had to wait till it got to red, switch gears, then it would progress, and it was timing you. So it was really it was a reaction time skill test.
Right.
Like, and there was a little bit of variance in it, so it wasn't the same timing every time.
Okay.
So you kind of like, you know, and it was trying to simulate like where you're driving, you're holding the gas down like a dragster, and you're
Right.
getting to the place where you have to shift gears, and you have to shift gears as fast as possible.
Right.
And in a dragster with like 4 gears, whoever shifts gears the quickest is ultimately going to win the race. You know, I mean, there's certainly something involved in the engineering of the engine itself, but in this game, it was simulating the gear shifting. That was it, simple as that. That game, I think my dad got that for me when we had to make a plane trip, and that amused me for the entire play. I was a little tyke, but that was it. That was the first game, and then later we got there's that C380 at the end there. It says digital pinball or video pinball or something on it.
Right.
It has 7 pre-programmed games, Breakout, Rebound, and
Right.
Pinball.
Right.
And there's a Bentley Pong there. The Pong, every one of these systems on the shelves were systems I grew up with. The Pong there that's below it though isn't. That was given to me as a gift by the guys from the Video Game History Museum, and Al Alcorn signed it. He's the guy that engineered
Oh my gosh.
the original Pong,
Yeah.
and that thing's really cool.
Wow.
So that was a gift. And the museum's actually going to open here in Texas. The National Video Game Museum is coming this summer.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I've done a lot to try to help make that happen. But
That's
yeah,
awesome.
so that was the first. That C380 was probably the first television system that I played. Playing a lot of pinball and Breakout on that guy. And then the first game I played that I think made me want to be a developer was the Colossal Cave Adventure. My dad had gotten me he built a computer for me basically, and it was a CP/M-based system, and the Colossal Cave Adventure was a text-based adventure game.
Right.
It actually was the predecessor to Zork.
Okay.
So Colossal Cave is what inspired Zork, and Zork in fact uses a lot of the language and a lot of the contexts
Right.
that were in the Colossal Cave Adventure. And that was cool because I was able to get a version of it in BASIC, and BASIC is an interpreted language, so if you can run the software, you can also look at the source code.
Right.
And I was able to look at the source code and start to understand how the software was constructed.
Right.
And it motivated me to want to learn how to program myself. And then, it all goes from there.
Well, I know I, for one, am very happy that you picked up video gaming, that you didn't get into something else, some other hobby or something, because I know a lot of us and everyone at HoldSquare.com has gotten an immense amount of enjoyment out of the Gearbox games, especially the Borderlands series. I know we're all really looking forward to the Handsome Collection coming out next month. And thanks again for having us here. We really appreciate it, man.
I was happy to hang out. It's
Thank
cool
you.
talking with you
Very
guys.
much.
It's awesome to hear how you guys started from the forums. Like it's so cool when we can make a game that games that have co-op gameplay, which is all about social interaction, and from that communities emerge and relationships emerge that never would have existed but for the fact that this game exists.
Oh yeah, some of my
awesome.
very best friends now are guys from HoldSquare that I've been gaming with now 4 and 5 years. I mean, as long as I've had other friends in my life. So yeah,
that's so awesome.
It's been really great.
That's so cool, man.
So thank you again. Enjoy the T-shirt. We're gonna all be tuned in on the 24th, of course. So. We're looking forward to that, and I am looking forward to my very first playthrough of the pre-sequel. I've gone through great pains. I haven't looked at any YouTube videos.
Holy crap!
I haven't. I don't let people talk about it on the forum when I'm
You're
around.
pure.
That's right. I'm going in this spoiler free, so
Okay.
We're really looking forward to
Awesome.
it. So thanks again for sitting down with us. We
Awesome.
appreciate it.
Cheers. Happy to do it.
All right.
Cheers.